With opening day just around the corner, it's time to predict who will take the AL pennant. Hello everyone and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Destiny Sanchez alongside Logan Bourandas and Jeremy Ganes. Tonight we will be breaking down predictions of the American League as spring training is underway. Let's start in the AL East. The Blue Jays are going to be more than a thorn in the Yankees' side with their young and talented team after adding George Springer and Marcus Semien, who are both proven leaders with plenty of postseason experience. Logan, do you think that the Rays will repeat the division champs, or will another team rise to the top?
Well, Destiny, I don't think it's going to be good news for the reigning AL champs this year. I actually have them third in my American League standings, you see right here. I think the Bronx Bombers and New York Yankees will find their way back up to the first spot in the AL East. They're getting a lot of their injured guys back. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, they'll be healthy and ready to go this season. And their rotation adds Jamison Taillon and Corey Kluber, who kind of add to that rotation that was also injury prone as well last year. And I also have the Blue Jays finishing at number 2. Destiny mentioned the guys that they had offensively. They also had guys like Kirby Yates into the bullpen and Steven Matz to help out in the rotation. I still think they do need another starter or two to kind of make that last push to help fight with the Yankees, but I like that the Blue Jays have potential or have the young talent to add to that young rotation. And I like that more than the Rays, who lost a lot of pieces this offseason. They lost Blake Snell. They lost Jose Alvarado in the pitching staff. And the offense is one of the worst in the league this year, it's looking like. They have Randy Arozarena coming back. Hopefully he'll be here for a full season. He was healthy for a really good postseason last year, but now it's his first season in his rookie year. Other than that, not too much to get excited about in Tampa Bay with that offense. So I have them falling from first to third. And then the Red Sox and Orioles 4 and 5, kind of in a similar spot. The Orioles, they've been rebuilding for the past couple of years. It seems like a half decade now at this point, with Chris Davis still being paid a handsome amount of money to hit 162 or something like that on the season. And then the Red Sox at 4, they're just starting the rebuild by trading Andrew Benintendi and Jackie Bradley Jr., leaving the Red Sox outfield to sign elsewhere.
Yeah, so let's just get rid of these two teams at the bottom, right? As you kind of said, the Orioles are going to be horrible. They're still rebuilding. They might be rebuilding for the next 10 years too. The Red Sox, I think, are going to be marginally better, but not really in this conversation to make the playoffs out of this division. The real race is these top 3, the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. The Yankees, it's just them. It's their division to lose. The real conversation starts with this wild card. How much of a drop-off are we going to see from this Rays team? You talked about it. They're losing a lot of their firepower from that team that really came out and surprised everybody last year in that shortened season. No Blake Snell, no Charlie Morton either. The lineup's just not going to be as good. Now, we know how deep this team is, and they're managed really well. It's a good organization. But you lose a lot of talent like that, and you have to consider the fact that they might take a step back. The Blue Jays taking major strides, obviously signing George Springer, as you said, and a lot of the young talent that they have on that roster as well is really starting to come together. I don't know if they have enough on this roster necessarily to make the wild card. I think the experience of the Rays and just the way that organization is built will be enough for them to get the wild card out of this division. But the Blue Jays certainly can scare the Rays, and I really could go either way.
The Astros continue to be a strong favorite in the West, but dominant players like Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon on the Angels could potentially step up to the plate. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the AL West?
Yeah, so you go to the AL West here. This is probably the least interesting division in the American League. The Astros, I think, are probably going to win this division, but they're not as good as they were. This is not the Astros team that we saw win the 2017 World Series. They're far from that at this point. The Angels never have really quite taken that next step to make the playoffs, even with Mike Trout there this whole time. They've tried to make moves, tried to get big free agents to take their money. They finally did with Anthony Rendon, but it really didn't do much for them in the shortened season last year. I don't think that they've really made enough improvements to their pitching staff to go out and win this division, and I don't think overall they'll be good enough to get a wild card spot in the American League. Now, maybe the playoffs will be expanded, and that will certainly help them and give them a chance, but I don't want to see that happen, and I don't think it'll happen. Then you come down to the A's. We talked about it already. Marcus Semien, losing Liam Hendricks. Those guys are not going to be there. The A's have lost a lot of pieces that have helped them make the wild card the last couple of seasons and be a entertaining, competitive team. Then you have the Rangers and the Mariners down at the bottom. The Rangers are going to be pretty bad. I think the Mariners might be even worse. They have Jared Kelenic, former Mets prospect that we know quite well. But other than that, it's just rebuilding down here. And none of these teams in the top 3 of this division are really going to be great playoff teams. I don't consider them real World Series threats either.
Yeah, I think I agree on the first place team, and that's the Houston Astros. As you said, this is the probably one of the weaker divisions, and not only the AL but all of baseball here. So the Astros, they are one win away from making to the World Series. So I like their odds at number one. And then the difference between 2 and 3, I get that the A's lost a lot of pieces. They lost Liam Hendricks, they lost Marcus Semien to different AL teams, but I do like them to finish number 2 just because they always seem to replace those pieces with guys you just never hear of. That's what Moneyball is all about. So I like the A's to stay at number 2. And then the Angels, I get why you have them at 2, their offense, but there's a different side to baseball. You have to score runs, but you also have to prevent runs from coming in. And the Angels just don't get that. They never seem to want to add any pitcher. They had a chance at Garrett Cole 2 years ago. He signed with the Yankees, even though the Angels could have given him a lot more money. They're in the LA market. And then Trevor Bauer won the Cy Young last year, and he's an LA guy, but he goes to the Dodgers when they just won the World Series. The Angels easily could have replaced someone in that pitching staff, but they just choose not to year after year, and it's always their downfall, and they just never get it. So I have the Angels finishing at number 3, not lower than the 4 and 5 teams, so I did switch just because they're in a rebuild. The Mariners, you mentioned they've guys coming up, Jared Kelenic, Julio Rodriguez, guys like that who are making their way to the big league roster. And the Rangers, they're just starting the rebuild too. They just traded away Lance Lynn to the Chicago White Sox, and they have guys like Joey Gallo that they could trade during the year. So that's why I kind of flipped them out here. But as you said, just one of the weaker divisions in all of baseball. And I think the Astros should have an easy time walking through it.
After losing Francisco Lindor, the Indians have a hill to climb to overtake the Twins. Out of the Twins, Indians, and the White Sox, which team do you see finishing first in the AL Central race?
Yeah, so I think this is going to end up being a 2-team race here. The White Sox and the Twins both made efforts to improve their roster after playoff appearances last year, and I think no matter what, both teams will find their way into the playoffs, but I like the White Sox here to do that. I mentioned Lance Lynn, who they got in a trade with the Rangers. They got Liam Hendricks as well from Oakland, so they have the pitching staff, which was their weak part of that team last year, and that adds to a young core. MVP Jose Abreu coming back for another full season. Tim Anderson's one of the best young stars in all of baseball, and they got guys like Luis Robert, Juan Moncada, to really add to that core of young players they have. And I like them over the Twins just because they did add to that pitching staff. The Twins, once they get to the postseason, have a history of choking just because they don't really have the pitching. We know they have the power. They're one of the best at hitting home runs in all of baseball. Josh Donaldson hopefully will be healthy for a full season. And I like Andrelton Simmons coming in from LA. So I think the Twins will find a way to be the 2 seed. And I have the Royals at number 3 just because they're showing signs of buying. They got Andrew Benintendi in a trade with the Boston Red Sox, and they're making moves or a push into their rebuild. They've been in a rebuild for a while, but I think they're making pushes to start competing. And the Indians are the complete opposite right now. Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco just got traded. We could see Jose Ramirez and Shane Bieber on the way out, some of the big stars that they have. So I don't like the Indians to finish as far. And then the Tigers, we just know that they've been bad for the past couple of years now. They're going to stay at 5.
The real conversation here is about the Twins and the White Sox. Personally, I think the consistency and experience of this Twins team, there's still enough there that they can win this division. Now, they're one of the best teams in baseball at, let's say, being good but not great. They're never going to beat the Yankees or make any noise in the playoffs, but they're good enough to win this division. I think the White Sox are still on the upward trajectory. I don't know if they're there quite yet. Tim Anderson and other players in that lineup you have to love. They made improvements on the pitching staff as well. That's, as you said, that's been a problem for them. The one reason I won't put them over the top here in this division is I cannot stress enough how much I hate the Tony La Russa hiring at manager. I'm sorry, but at age 76, I just cannot frame in my mind how this guy is going to understand the way that baseball managing works in the modern day, the analytics and all those things. I just don't see him making those adjustments. So maybe that holds them back. As you said, the talent is there. This is a very talented ball club, but I just don't know when it comes to game in and game out, they're going to be making the best decisions with Tony La Russa at the helm. I think the Indians aren't ready to make their precipitous drop as you do yet. I think there's enough there. Shane Bieber, they have some other talented pitchers behind him. Zach Plesac as well is another one. They keep moving pitchers out because they always seem to have a surplus, and I think that at least tells you that they have young guys coming up. So I think there will be enough there, but the lineup definitely is a concern. You don't have Francisco Lindor anymore, who didn't have a great season last year anyway. Jose Ramirez, if he's on the way out, then this lineup's going to get even worse. I think they'll be decent enough behind that pitching, but the lineup is really a problem. Last year, it was a problem already. I mean, Indians honors were basically free money because the pitching was so great, but they couldn't hit. Then you go down to the Royals. This is a team that's not awful. There are some young pieces. but they're not really going to make any noise. And of course, the Tigers, you kind of said this, they're rebuilding forever, and I don't see an end to it.
After going through each division, which team do you think makes it out of the American League and moves on to the World Series?
So I think there's really no real challenger to the Yankees. Now, it was kind of nice to see the Rays come out and give them that scare and beat them in the ALCS last year and really surprise people and show how successful that model of team making and team building can be. But all their competition has gotten weaker, so it's pretty much the Yankees' pennant to lose. The question is, how strong will their pitching be? They made some moves to shore it up with Jameson Taillon and Corey Kluber. Those are some very high upside, but also very high risk moves. If those guys don't stay healthy, the Yankees are going to continue to have the same pitching depth issues behind Jarrett Cole that they've had last year when he was here and years before that, before they brought him in. The offense will continue to be explosive, we know that, but these two guys right here need to stay healthy. There's no question about that. Stanton and Judge need to be healthy and prove that they're the stars that we think they are. The stars stay healthy, and that's just the fact of it, so they need to come in and play as close to 162 games as possible.
Yeah, it's a big thing for the Yankees, and I do agree that they'll come out of the AL, but I think the biggest challenger, this will be the first time we'll see the Chicago White Sox really compete with the Yankees with the core that they have. And it's really just because of these two right here. Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, both broke out in their own way last year. Abreu won the MVP. Tim Anderson's been one of the more exciting players in all of baseball. And you mentioned the Tony La Russa hiring. I get it. It was a very questionable hiring, but there is no question that he has the experience. He has the World Series experience, one with the Cardinals back in 2011. He has the experience to get this young core to where they need to be, and they added a lot in their pitching staff, which is their weak part. I already mentioned the key guys to look out there, but adds to Lucas Giolito, who threw a no-hitter last year, and he's really improved throughout his time in Chicago. So it's really going to be an interesting team to look out for on the South side.
It will be interesting to see how these powerhouse teams will do this season, and I'm excited for baseball to be back. That's all we have for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. Tune in next week where we will preview the National League as we get ready for opening day. For Logan Bourandas and Jeremy Ganes, I'm Destiny Sanchez, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.